Protesters were out in force over the weekend as New York State Attorney General Letitia James had a drag story hour for families with children.
The baby couldn't decide what to be. Oh my goodness, boy or girl, bird or fish, cat or rabbit, tree or star. So the baby looked a little like everything.
Well, these types of events have surely been the public of fierce debate recently, including on this show. And joining us to discuss is our panel, former New York City Records Commissioner Brian Anderson, host of Money Talk with Melanie Collette, and attorney and GOP strategist Ford O'Connell. Melanie, I'm going to start with you here. It seems like there's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't hear about drag story hour for children. And then we have the New York Attorney General actually holding a sponsored event.
Why? I just don't understand.
I was wondering the same thing, Melanie.
Please tell us.
Are we insisting on expediting exposing children to sex? I don't understand it. And why are we doing it on the taxpayer's dime? I don't understand why they're doing it. Well, I think that I kind of do understand why they're doing it. They're just trying to force what many feel is unacceptable. Even many people, part of that community, don't think it's acceptable to expose these kinds of things to children, because you don't want to have conversations prematurely about sex and sexuality. It's a complex issue, and it's not for kids.
Yeah, Ford, that's pretty much it, right? I mean, do what you want, but, and especially, like Melanie said, this is a government employee using government money to do this. It seems crazy.
Look, Melanie is right, but the Democrats will stop at nothing when it comes to poisoning the minds of young children. This is not about LGBT issues. This is about what's age appropriate.
Right.
And this is another case of Letitia James trying to virtue signal because she's done a terrible job as Attorney General, especially when it comes to prosecuting crime in New York City. She's taking a page from Alvin Bragg's playbook and basically diverting attention in this hope. And unfortunately, this is going on across the country and throughout the Democratic Party. I wish there was something more to say about it.
Yeah, Brian, your thoughts? Because I'm just checking here, and I recall reading that Kirk Cameron, who's also doing story hours at libraries now about his Christian book about families, his event on Friday was interrupted by protesters and drag queens. So we have two very different views of, I will say, American values coming to a head.
Exactly, but religion versus what, sexualized content for children? Who ever thought that was a good idea? I mean, look, we're not prudes, drag was funny as adult entertainment at the clubs at night. Movies like Tootsie and Mrs. Doubtfire, men in women's clothes, okay, very funny. But this is not what they're talking about in front of these kids.
Right.
And worse yet, there's parents involved here. So how is this happening? I just don't understand it.
And it does have an element of grooming, Ford. I mean, it just doesn't feel right. I mean, why do you need to do that? I don't understand the driving impetus to talk to children about this topic when adults can go to those shows if they want to.
Because it's about brainwashing children who are the most susceptible to the progressive agenda. They don't only just do this behind the LGBTQ issues, they do this, as Melanie knows, behind African-American issues. It's always about indoctrinating the youngest members to the progressive agenda, because if younger members are indoctrinated to their way of thinking, when they become adults and vote, they're going to be voting for the Democrat Party.
All right, last thoughts to you, Melanie.
Nope, that is exactly true. Ford hit the nail on the head. They do it with all kinds of groups and then refer to them as marginalized, and then continue to do things like this to further marginalize those groups. It's disgusting. It's maddening that they had protests at Kirk Cameron's readings. Nobody's going to their drag shows protesting. Like, can we just leave each other alone?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there were protesters at this drag show for kids actually this weekend too. But then at the same time, you have protesters going to one that's about family. So it seems like priorities might be a little bit out of line. And again, always great to get your thoughts and perspectives. Brian Anderson, Melanie Collette, Ford O'Connell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob and Katrina.